All right, so we're up here at Lake Noji in northern Japan, somewhat northern Japan, between Nagano Prefecture. It's basically Nagano and Niigata. And we're going to leave today. We're sitting up here. We got a big old cabin with a ping pong table, and everything's set for a good Ronin. So we're going to go over the trip. I've been here for over a month now in Japan, and it's been a very interesting trip. All the Japan trips have been great. I was just going back and looking at my old pictures and I was deleting like extra pictures and duplicates, getting rid of duplicates. And I saw pictures from the Kyoto Summit, and I was like, wow, that was an insane trip. And I completely forgot about the Kyoto trip. So sometimes when I look at a picture, all of a sudden it's like all these things come back in my mind. But now it's kind of fresh. It's the end of the trip, and we've kind of seen a lot of things. We've seen the way people act. You learn a lot about yourself on these trips because these are tough trips, right? You know what I mean? Like mosquitoes, and you deal with stuff. You always have a choice between comfort and adventure, basically, and getting out there, right? Those are the two, that's always the decision. Do I want comfort, or do I want to do something that's not predictable or difficult or whatever? We climbed a freaking serious mountain the other day. Mount Miyoko was way tougher than I thought. Yeah. Like my legs were so sore, man. I could hardly walk yesterday.
Oh. Really dangerous too.
Yeah, it was. One slip and you're dead. You're off the edge. Yeah, for sure. But it wasn't written up that way. It was just, but. The sulfur, yeah, from the natural hot spring water. Like the whole river was like natural hot spring. I'll put some videos of that climb.
It smells like powerful eggs.
Yeah, it's like sulfur, just the strongest sulfur smell. Yeah, in certain places, right? But yeah, so like the trip has brought up a lot of things. Like one thing I'm just thinking about here, but is just watching how much like marriage controls a guy's mind. Whenever, like it always happens whenever our group. We kind of do things, we have fun, we're out planning things and doing things. And then you don't really realize that we're acting very, very differently than most men. Because we're not slaves, right? So we're not slaves to anything. We're not slaves to work. We're not slaves to a woman. And so we just do things a certain way. And it seems normal. And the longer you do it, the more normal it seems. And then you come across somebody who's married in like a more slave job, and all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, wow, because it's the subtle things, right? It's the constant. What I see is we were hanging out here with a friend of mine who's married, and I just see the constant stress in everything in his life. Like everything is. And it could all be traced back to his wife. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that like true. Like, for example, we were going to go to Tokyo today, right? So we were just kind of like, it wasn't looking that good to make a serious plan. Okay, we got to be there at this time. So that wasn't really working because there's so many moving parts up here. It's like, it's very laissez-faire, easy going up here. Yeah. Nothing is kind of on time. It's not like Japan and Tokyo, right? Up here, just things happen, and the weather and water and rain. And
we may decide we want to do something, so...
Yeah, well,
whatever.
Us too, right?
We may want to go swimming or whatever we want to do,
Yeah.
Oh, let's stay another hour or two, whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it all comes down to the best idea wins for us. And the best idea wins is not how people live their life at all. Like for me, the best idea wins. So I'm like, well, do I want to make a rigid plan and then ruin my last morning up here in the mountains for really no benefit except for getting back home in Tokyo at a specific time? No. Like as soon as my married friend started hearing about our plans, he started pushing for a rigid. You need to look this up. You need to get this done. You guys are slacking. You guys are not, And then it's like, I just kind of had to say, well, wait a second. Like, I don't even care. Like I don't even have to go home tonight. Like I did like it could be tomorrow. It doesn't. I mean, I want to because my friend's in town and could see him. But all I got to do is tell him, hey, you know, it's not going to be tomorrow. It'll be the next day. And he'd be like, oh, okay. That's, you know, my friend has a consulting gig and he used to live here. Now he's back in Japan. I really want to meet up with him, but he's going to be here for 2 weeks. And, you know, nothing is make or break with him and me. You know, our friendship is solid. It doesn't matter. He knows me. I know him, you know, and I know he's in a business mindset too. So like there won't be as much fun as we usually have. Usually it's like a total like maniac fest. We have so much fun together. But I know also he's in kind of a business kind of serious thing. But when I brush up against a married guy, and it happens a lot when we, like on the Ronin tour, we stay at married guys' houses once in a while. And the wife's not even there. Like, you know, in Boston, like we're there. The wife is in another country, right? But just because the wife exists, right, a lot of things are different. Even though the wife is gone and not even calling, she leaves every year for like 1 month, goes overseas to her parents, and yet the house needs to be kept a certain way.
It's almost like she, even though she's, you know, across the world in another country, she's still there in some way. It's like, you know, oh crap! If the wife sees this, you know, she's gonna be pissed. You know, better immediately. It's like as soon as, you know, he notices like, oh, can't leave that like that. You know, it's like she's almost there standing behind his back or something.
Yeah.
Because like, oh, if she gets back and sees this, I'm gonna have a hard time. You know, she's gonna be pissed. You know,
Divorce.
So even though she's like all the way across the world, she's like still there in some way.
Oh yeah, and then not even in some way, in every way. Like the house, you know, for example, like he had certain towels that she had brought from her home country. And those towels are like almost like sacred cloth in Tibetan ritual or something. Like, cause I've been staying up, I've been staying in his house for many years, right? Decades. When I go over there, you know, he comes, hangs with me, I go hang with him. And I would go when his wife is gone, right? But, and yet, if those towels were damaged, it's almost divorce. I swear to God. Like like there's certain things with her. If those towels were like bleached or something, oh man. I mean, it's just like, you know, I don't even know what they were, Moomin towels or some bullshit. I don't know. They had some, you know, cartoon characters from that, you know, it's just like, what? And it's like, I sometimes, like when I'm meeting people, when I kind of bump into regular people, and I don't mean this in any kind of like, any kind of a condescending way at all. I just almost want to laugh sometimes because I'm just like, no way. Because to me, like any kind of towels, they're just towels. Like I don't even need it. I can use my t-shirt. Like they really are not important. The purpose of a towel is to dry you off after you take a shower.
Purely pragmatic.
Yeah, this is to dry you off, right? So if you have one towel, I mean, I have certain towels I like, and you know, when I lived in Japan, I had a towel I liked, but you know, it was just me and the towel, so it could never get too crazy. But when you add a woman in there, then it's totally different because, and I think too, women like they have different rules for themselves and for their husbands. So if she bleached one of those towels, it would be like, well, we got to
wherever.
Yeah, we got to go get a new one. That's all. Yeah. It's like, well, we need a trip, right? Because you know,
we need a plane ticket.
Yeah,
we just need a plane ticket all the way across the world. To go buy some more in person.
Right.
You know, make sure we get them, you know, from the source.
Right. And yet, if he did it, it's like this. It's this thing, and so oh man, I when I see this, like I can understand. Okay, this is one thing people don't understand about me. I will allow myself to be locked down for certain reasons temporarily. You know what I mean? Like if I'm in someone's house where there's like a schedule, you know, we got to be in by 10, we got to leave this there, make sure to put the key back. You know, I don't mind doing any of that stuff temporarily. Or not any of that stuff, but I mean, a lot of situations, I look at it, I evaluate the whole benefit and then and the cost, and if it comes out to be a good deal, I'll play along with it. Like I'm not like here's what I think most people do is they play along with it, but they're passive aggressive about it. I think that's what most husbands do. Is they kind of are too scared, very rightly so, of the consequences. So, but they're pissed. It's kind of like when you're 13, your dad tells you we got to go to church, and then you're just like you're just being a pain in the ass. And I forgot my shoe. One shoe. Yeah, I forgot it at home. Yeah, we got to go home and get my shoe. It's just things like that. The dad just goes ballistic, right? Because you're so pissed off that you want to just make it difficult for the guy. Because you don't have a choice. That's the thing. And married guys are like that. I think married guys are very passive aggressive. I'm not super fond of a lot of married guys. They think, oh, my wife does this to me. Whereas I look at the way they act now and say, well, how do you act to your friends and people, right? What have you become? Just because you're a good man, at birth doesn't mean you end up, getting all these accolades later. You have to, you kind of build yourself as a man. You kind of get your basic building blocks, and then you have to like reach in. It's almost like you're reaching into, your heart or the earth to find what you could do and what you could change. And, it's crucially difficult. And you're building yourself into the man. Like these married guys, they just become a total nervous wreck at the end and very passive aggressive because they can't leave in their minds, and the cost is high. Don't get me wrong. And so they just become this like a rudderless ship just being ordered around, really, at the end of the day. And constantly in fear of a punishment, right? And I don't think that's overstating it at all. I really think my married friends are like that. Like I really think that is the deal today. And I guess there's probably a lot of reasons. Maybe it's because of the legal system, where men don't have, rights or whatever. But I don't care at the end of the day. That's just a waste. A lot of guys, they go off on that. But the main thing you have to say is, wait, what's actually happening? What should I do, right? So the main thing is don't get in that situation. Don't get where, you're. I mean, I think today's day and age. I mean, I got to say, just don't get married, no matter what. Just don't get married because God, you look at it. It's like every towel, every piece of food, every what else? What else? It's like things that these married
kitchen utensil,
every
pan, every linen cloth for the bed or pillowcase, every antique on the wall, every little statue, every painting, every picture, every old antique piece of furniture. Which could easily be destroyed if you bump into it accidentally. It's some old piece, very old wooden table or stool or something. An entire shelf of old china dishes or old.
I think too. Just hearing you say that is great. I think that it is like a web. It's like a spider's web of restrictions and fears and punishments.
Like holding on to the past.
Well, no. See, I think it is all fake from the girl's side.
They don't even care.
They don't know. At the end of the day, well, they care when they're in that situation. But I've met many married girls who, after I fuck them or whatever, they're just like, I just hate everything about my life. I don't want to see anything that I'm doing now. I want to do everything fresh. I want to move out of here. I want to go to a new country. I want to basically leave everything. I just want to go. I want to do a whole fresh new start. So I've had many women tell me that. And also too, friends, girls, this is what a lot of guys don't know is I have a lot of friends, right? So girls are friends too. And they'll come to me, they kind of know about Ronin Man. Some of them know about Ronin Man, other ones don't. But they still know I'm Ronin Man even if I don't have this channel. I've always been like this. So they know I'm the guy to go to that understands like guys' issues and stuff. So women often ask me for advice, or they say, what do you think about this? What do you think I should do? You know, or they'll tell me stuff they're doing if they're cheating or whatever. Like I'm thinking this about this guy, and I don't waste a lot of time with these girls. I mean, I'm not sitting there like on call to answer their questions, but it just comes up. It comes up in normal conversation when something's big. They also know I don't like to be bothered too. So if they're bothering me, they're going to be out, you know. But if they have a sincere question, I love to hear what other people are really struggling with, right? And then they tell me, you know, basically like, and I've heard a lot of older ladies too, especially older ladies, is just say, it all means nothing. Like everything in my life just means nothing. And I just, you know, I don't value any of it. Like if I change, if I make, it's like this huge, fragile, complicated, you know, structure. And they're like, if I could change anything, I would just change everything. Like I'd get a new husband. I would move to another country. I would get into this new sport. I would leave. You know, I don't even, like a lot of times they don't even really care about their friends that much. Like they just really are not, it's like this complicated, delicate, walking on eggshells world they create for their husbands. And they're outside the rules. And anytime they get a chance to meet an exciting guy and leave, the whole thing's a big joke to them. The guy's like a lapdog and the whole situation sucks. Like they hate it all. They hate the towels. They hate the house. They hate the kitchen. They're not attached to any of it. It's not about holding on to things. They're just doing it out of nervousness and a way to control the guy, and maybe their own stupidity and like lack of ability to think wider. You know, they create. I think they do it because they can, basically. And then when they get a chance to like something fresh, I mean, go up to your mom or something. Just ask her. Say, Mom, if you could, you know, if you met somebody, you know, who was like super cool and very wealthy, and they wanted to like go do new things, like what would you do? Like, you know, they could take you to another country, you could do, and then she'll say, oh gosh, that car that she always talks about, she doesn't care. Women don't care about stuff either. It's all a fucking psyop. The whole thing's a psyop. Nobody cares. Like everybody wants to be unblackmailable, basically, at the bottom line. Every man, every woman wants freedom. It's really true. They all talk to me and tell me like, and girls will tell me, like any girl who's like close to me, she eventually finds out about Ronin Man. And she basically says like, I feel the same way. Like I'm the same way. Like I don't want any of this shit. Like any of this shit, I don't know why I keep building it, but it's still there, you know. Like I don't, and sometimes they'll even tell me like, I make my husband running around for this stupid shit and doing this, but I don't even care about it. And I know he doesn't love me and the whole thing's stupid, but what else are we going to do, right? Kind of thing, right? They're happy in a way. You know, I think most people, if they can't get freedom, they get into this ooze of just, they settle into this ooze of ease. I don't know if it's ease or what is it? It's just a pattern.
It's comfort, less resistance.
It's less, I guess so. I don't know. I mean, it just depends on how you look at it, because there's a lot of resistance to every.
Wider.
Yeah, there's a lot of resistance.
They're building up resistance around them.
Yeah, it's. I guess it's the known. I guess the known or something.
Yes.
And the thing is, don't. You know, I think too. Like a lot of guys like. They'll come up to you and tell you this stuff about their wife, but very few men will tell you the truth about themselves, and how they're part of the problem. Like. They're comfortable in this situation, right? Too, you know, like both people are just kind of comfortable. And for me, whenever I get into a relationship and then it reaches like a point where it's no longer like a magical good relationship, I just say, well, this is it. You know, it's like, it's the same thing with a job. You know, I do the job, I love it. I learned to be, certain jobs I moved up to get there, and then I learned them. And then I realized that nothing is there's no job that's that exciting. Like I think it's all fake. Basically the way people live is all fake. Like I am a doctor. They don't want to be doctors. What was Matt saying? He like being a lawyer, he doesn't challenge him anymore. There's like nothing there for him anymore. He just does it for money, which there's nothing wrong with that.
Things change
No,
pretty quickly.
and that's smart to do things for money. I'm not saying quit every job for money and then just be poor. No. If you're getting good money and if you can go on autopilot and make good cash, there's fucking nothing wrong with that. And then use the cash in good ways, right? Like you can still, if you really nailed life, you studied hard and you got that great job that makes good money and you can do it mindlessly without any stress, basically, right? Keep it, right? Keep that cash flowing in, man. And then just totally reinvent your real self, right? But what was I going to say? You were going to say? You were going to say something.
Things change very fast.
What did you mean by that?
Like all the time. Well, like relationships, jobs, and like how you feel about something. It's just
Oh,
always
yeah.
change. So like people trap themselves in this like bubble, and they want to feel safe.
Yeah.
Or have this pattern.
They want the same thing. They want the same McDonald's meal forever. Except...
Well, they kind of don't at the same time. It's like a contradictory feeling.
No, I want to hear your idea. What is it? Like, give me a better example. Or an example.
If you have like this job.
There's someone some specific, yeah. There's got to be somebody you're thinking about. When I think of examples, I'm always thinking of some specific thing. And then I think, I shouldn't say it as too specific. But that's really what, it comes from the specifics, really. Lessons.
Well, even in like a relationship.
Yeah.
Like when you're feeling in a relationship, it's like there's a point where you kind of stop having this intense feeling.
Yeah.
And then it's just flat, almost.
Basically, well, that really is the heart of it, actually. Is in my mind, like I've always lived this way, right? I've never wanted to, you know what I mean? So I kind of never understood this about people, like the way, I guess it's a personality thing or something, but I would always do something, build a house, travel, start a business, do something. And then it would be very exciting and interesting. And then there was a point where I thought, well, I've kind of gotten everything out of this. And then it's like on the way downhill, right? And for me, I've always thought it's over for me, because I just have, I don't know why, maybe it's stupid, but I just have unlimited faith in myself to reinvent myself again. And I don't recommend doing this because I know a lot of people fail when they leave their job. So I am not giving this advice. It depends on you. It really does. Don't just quit a job just because you say it's boring now. Like, life can be very hard when you don't have money. Like, man, you got to be careful. Like, you really do, because you're yourself, right? I'm me. I have my own weaknesses, right? You got your own, right? Don't make a crazy decision that's going to really destroy your life, right? You'll have so much regret.
And this is why marriage is also kind of...
If you're a doctor or something, right?
Right.
You're making good money, you get respect. And then you quit, and then, like, look at the people that, like, did things on principle. And so many of them ended up pretty miserable, right? I heard Cat Stevens was miserable when he quit. He quit singing music because he became a Muslim, And then, he wouldn't do, but then I heard from a little birdie that he basically just does private concerts for religious people and basically does the same thing, but basically almost free, right? So he just basically does, and no fame and no, he has no control. He's like a trained, it sounds like to me, he's like a trained dog or something, just going around, singing for people without any benefits or freedom, and same songs, and like basically, it's, I don't know. To me, it looks like a huge failure. Like, he was one of the biggest pop stars in the 60s, right? And he was very well liked, man. People liked that guy. They really liked that guy. It was his sincerity, right? And I like, he might even be getting Alzheimer's at this point. and like where he just kind of like is trapped into this thing that he kind of like did out of principle. I think things out of principle, you got to be very careful about those. Really, you got to be careful. Like, I think the left, they really love principle, but a lot of times your thinking changes and things change, right? So what's a principle now might change later. But yeah, you realize, oh my God, I was thinking wrong about that, right? Sometimes you realize that you didn't see things correctly, right? Like go with more real things, like real things are better. Base your life on. But I don't know why I got on that, but
I think people get like entangled, like really deep into things, and it's really hard to unwind it. Right?
Oh yeah.
So, in the case of people with marriages, it's so thick.
Yeah.
Can't, it's like almost easier just to stay in it because the fear of the consequence.
Yeah.
But once you actually evaluate that consequence, it's becomes something different, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like this like anxious, like you don't know what it is. It's like unknown, and it even hurts to think about the consequence. But
Yeah, well, it's terrifying.
once you,
All those unknowns, yeah.
Yeah. And like once you think about it, it gets a bit easier.
Well, most of the time you only make those kind of changes when you have to. Like when the girl divorces you, right? Then you have to go through with it, right? Or the girl takes the baby, then you kind of have to. I think in life, volunteering for that kind of pain and disruption is very difficult. The time to break away, like let's say you want to travel, right? And you have a great job and you're making good money, but you realize it wasn't all that, right? I think a lot of kids need to know that jobs are just not all that. They just aren't. So you have a good job and people will say, oh, you should be free. Oh, you're a slave. And then you say, well, actually, I'm making fucking good money. And a lot of people are maybe envious of my situation. So I'm just going to stay here. But how do you get free? So you can do both. You keep the job. And then the moment the company goes bankrupt, you lose the job, that's when you try freedom. So you wait. Like there'll be a moment where something will happen. Your company will get taken over and you'll have just a total, cunty boss or something. And then you're like, okay, now it's easier, right? There'll be a moment where things will you'll get promoted, I know a lot of soldiers that were very good in the field, like in Vietnam, they got promoted to managers, basically, and they didn't like it. So I think a lot of people, they kind of get promoted thinking it's good. Then they realize they actually liked what they were doing before better, but they can't go back now because the company will basically shun them at this point. So that's a point where you say, I hate my job and I'm ready for something new. And then you move. That's the smart way. You can do it just hardcore like I do, where I just say, hey, I've learned this now. I'm going to jump off a cliff again with nothing to save me, and no money and nobody, and you can do that, but it's
good to have a reason.
It's better if you have a reason, something, and let that be your moment, basically.
Right.
That's what you're kind of waiting for that moment and say, wait, has that moment come yet? Not really. So like I was talking to Gabe, and he was talking about saving money, and he makes good money, and he was going to quit and this and that. And I said, don't quit so easy, And so now he's doing his own business and he's keeping the job. But at some point, if he keeps saving money, he'll have so much money that he'll become an investor. And that's when you make the switch, is when you suddenly realize that you're making more from your interest than you make in your income, right? And then you say, oh, maybe now I can switch over from a worker to a full-time investor in, buying like multiplex properties, getting a property manager, whatever it is that, I think real estate would be good. Apartment buildings, right? Not houses, like apartment buildings, 16 apartments, right? 32 apartments. That's a good investment, and then you can live off that, right? But that's when you shift, is when you realize, man, I'm making more money off my investments than I am off my job. And it's not some crazy crypto thing that's like one day. It's like, no, permanently you're making more money. And then you'll just naturally reevaluate and say, wait, why am I working so hard? I hate this job. Now I got the money. You know, if that income is what is the thing, then I can just quit. I'm getting that income anyway. And then I'll just double down on investments and make more income, right? And I'll find ways to get better investments, right? Because I got more time, right? So so it's not always like quitting or disruption. You're looking for that window of opportunity to make that shift. And sometimes you have to sacrifice. Like I know Sean wanted to come to Japan this time, but he couldn't because he's really in a great position at work. He's loving what he's doing. He's kicking. I mean, he's loving the whole thing. If you look at it on a whole, he's like, this is amazing, right? So he wants to ride it out. And then when something changes, that's when you make, you know, that's when you do it. But I think some people misunderstand that, you know.
The thing is, there's a big difference between like a big change in a job or a big change in a marriage, though, because there's almost never a good time to quit a marriage, right?
Well, yeah, there is. Like, maybe let's say, well, there's many good times to quit a marriage. Like one is a recession. Like women leave men in recessions. Yeah, it's been proven. Whenever a guy's down, when he needs help, you know, he invested all this time and money in this relationship, that's when the girl leaves him. Is when he wants to get back something. Basically, they're just sucking everything out of you. And then when you need help, women today, they're not there for you. Modern women, they're not there to carry you around and pay for things and fix your back and stuff. They basically just, you know, what have you done for me lately? So they start really henpecking the shit out of you when you lose the job. So now you don't have the job. It's a recession. Times are hard. And your wife's just absolutely unbearable. That's when it's a good time to leave. Because also, too, your alimony and child support will be much lower because you're not making any money. So you wait for a year. You know, you're just in poverty for a year. And then divorce. Don't divorce the minute you lose the job. Because if you do, she'll say, oh, it's not because of the recession. It's because he's not trying right. You know, so that's one time to quit a marriage. A good time, right? Another good time would be if something traumatic happens. Like if you know, God forbid, one of the kids gets killed in a car crash. And then a lot of marriages, they go off these kind of things. Kids get killed and the marriage falls apart. It'll kind of naturally. The girl like sees you as the whole situation is unlucky or something and just is not as interested in you. And that's a good time to leave. Another good time to leave would be if she cheats.
Yeah, cheating.
If she cheats, that's perfect, right? Or even if you see she's going to cheat, you'll be motivated because you'll be like, wait, I'm being monogamous and I can see her leaning towards this other way. I don't have any evidence yet, but this is a good time. I'm motivated because I don't want to be humiliated, right? Like, being cheated on is not being humiliated. That song in the 60s, right, 70s, whatever it was, everybody plays the fool sometimes. That song is true. You can fuck 10,000 girls and you will get cheated on. It doesn't matter who you are. Some girl's gonna cheat on you in your life, period. Whether you know about it or not. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter physically. There's nothing that protects you from. Everybody plays the fool. There's always some other guy is gonna come along. He's gonna be whatever it is that's different than you, and she's gonna want that. A different color skin, a younger, older, European. There's just something, a movie star, muscles, brash, a singer, and you can't sing. There's always something that could become attractive, and then she splits, right? So I think if a girl cheats, I will personally see the thing is I've never talked about this. I kind of love when girls cheat because if they ever cheat, it's like perfect for me because they cheat because it's kind of over in their minds. So it's like I don't let them know, right? But I'm actually ecstatic to let them go, right? I'm just like, can't wait till they're out the fucking door, right? And I can just, start walking down that, boulevard of broken dreams, right? And that song comes on. I walk this lonely, I'm just getting the fuck out of here, right? Just play that song and walk out the fucking door, right? And so when a girl like does that, because I've been with a lot of women, I know it has nothing to do with me. Like the guys who the girls cheated on them for me, they didn't do anything wrong. It's just the way life is. Girls cheat. Guys, if you don't know this already, girls are not monogamous. They cheat a lot. And today they cheat more than guys, statistically. So no matter who you are, in fact, the cooler guy you are, this is actually what was in a study I read, is more likely, the more money you have, the bigger dick you have, the better you are, the more likely she's going to cheat. And why is that? I was shocked when I read that. I was like, what the fuck? But then I thought about it for a few years. I thought, why is that? And it made sense. All of a sudden I thought about it. I thought, okay, this is it. So a girl who wants those things, right, is a little bit unusual girl, to be honest. The average, natural woman just kind of wants, like let's say back in the 50s or whatever. She just wants companionship. She wants a guy to work hard. She wants a man to come home to. Her really expectations are not that high. Really. In the old days, like my mom's, she was a beauty queen, my mom, and she just went with the guy who was her neighbor, right? And that was good enough. They're going to get out of Minnesota, go somewhere better, right? They're going to go forge a life on their own. She didn't have super high expectations. And so I look at women, women have become this beast now. But really their natural selves, they just kind of, and you'll see it all the time if you have friends that are women, they'll be settling with a guy that they definitely shouldn't have settled with. The guy's not at their level. Some girls are just pretty cool. They're pretty, they're funny, they got good personality. And they'll just marry some dork who they just kind of played pool good or something and kind of tricked them into it. Happens. It definitely happens. And you're you see imbalances sometimes, with women where they just got the wrong guy. It's some women, especially if they're from small towns, it happens more. The bigger places they're from, I think the less likely. And also, men and women have blind spots too. So there's certain things that turn us on that don't even make logical sense. And then once you get them, you realize that it's nothing, right? So the women who have these high expectations, who want money, let's just say money. Okay, so I know somebody very wealthy, right? And your husband, right? And somebody else who knew them said, if she ever left him, she's going to go with a guy with 100 times more money. And I was he was an older guy who said that. And I was what are you talking about? She's got the guy with the most money I've ever heard of. What are you talking about? And he goes, yeah, she would. And I realized she's got taste for it. And there's other guys who do have more money. I just never realistically think that that's even a possibility to have more money than that. But there are guys with more money. And now that she got a taste of money, I thought about it. I thought he's actually right. As weird as it sounds, she's now in that upper crust of people where everybody's rich, right? And in that crust, man, you would not believe the unusually strange animals in that crust, right? There's just people with all kinds of weird situations, right? I once knew a guy who had the patent for fax machines, Japanese guy. He owned the patent. And fax machines were huge back then, before the internet. And every time someone sent a fax, did anything with bought a fax machine, sent faxes, he got money. Every single fax in the whole world, he got a piece of that action. Because it used to be called telex, and then it became fax, right? And he invented the fax himself. No team, just him, right? He had the patent for it. And he just that guy could just not spend his money. Because the money would just keep rolling in. He could just buy Picassos all the time. He didn't care. Money just constantly. And it was weird to know this guy because it was that was weird. Like, there's another guy who was part of the zipper company, YKK. And every zipper you buy, pretty much this zipper, every zipper is YKK. It's a Japanese company. For some reason, they just cornered the market. And I knew somebody who was from that Swedish, Tetra Pak, the milk container. There's one company that controls that globally. And he was that family, right? And they're so fucking rich. Every time you drink milk, you give him money. Like every single time someone opens any kind of container like that, he gets cash, right? And these people, they're just so fucking rich. They didn't do anything. Maybe just invented something, right? And it's crazy. They just get money just endlessly, right? And so, I mean, she probably wants someone like that. Someone who doesn't even have to work for it. Someone with the money, like basically they just back a truck up every day and just, get pitchforks and start unloading like bales of money. And there's like no risk the money's not going to come because that's the best container for milk, right? It's like done deal, right? So like she's going to get one of those guys next, right? Just ridiculous situation, right? So like a girl who wants money is the least, like I've noticed this, especially with guys physically. Say a guy's like super ripped, right? Or he's like very good at something, right? Or physically gifted, right? He's like, oh, my girls are going to be loyal because they love my body, right? Biggest mistake. Because there's always going to be somebody with a better body. Always. There's new guys being made every minute. There's going to be some guy with a better body. And as you age, your body's never the same. There's a peak where you feel like it's going to last forever, right? But there's another guy coming up right now who's got a better body.
And they're taking steroids as well.
Well, there's that too, but there's just genetically, there's so many types of humans out there, right? And so if your girl chose you on body or chose you on money or chose you on fame, it's the worst. That's why famous guys kill themselves, because they realize that their fame is fleeting, right? You're never going to be a famous actor forever. Nobody, not even Dustin Hoffman, and nobody. You get too old, no one wants you anymore, right? You just get a few, you hobble out on your cane and, give a little speech here and there. But your fame, the heat is not there, Oh, Dustin, the girls chasing the cars, getting run over. That's gone, right? It's just gone. So everything is fleeting. And if you're basing that the girl's going to be, like, I know how I'm going to win this game. Every girl wants that and this and this. I'm going to nail that. And then you think, well, that's going to get me a loyal girl. Actually, it gets you the most disloyal girl. But she's just looking for that. And the next guy who has a little more of anything, she might not physically leave you, but she has no affection for you. Ice cold. Because you're not the guy anymore. She's thought you was everything, right? You were the guy, the one solution, And now there's another guy, and he's better. So it's not always just physically leaving you. Sometimes it's also, you feel that it's real why she likes you. Like there's a real reason. Part of being like, I think one of the key things with being stable emotionally is just realizing that any girl can leave you at any time. Any situation could fall apart at any time. You just are going to be fine. Like, I mean, our parents all die, right? Our girlfriends all leave us eventually, mentally, right? Our girlfriends, everything, friends, they're very valuable, but they come and go too. Sometimes a friend will just totally, think totally differently for a while and not be interested in being your friend, right? So it's like you just realize that you have yourself, right? And you want to build yourself, and you want to enjoy your life, and you won't be fooled by nonsense, right? So you're like, okay, I'm going to keep reinventing myself as I go through phases in life. I'm going to keep staying free. I'm going to keep out of traps. And in the end, you have a great life. You know, because life is great. That's the problem. It's like when you get rid of all these retarded structures, like actually getting out there and doing stuff is actually great. You know, and it's not that it's like something meaningful. Like swimming is not meaningful. It's just, it feels great. You know, you take off your shirt, you jump in the water. Every day is a little different, you know. You're swimming around. You know, we climbed a mountain the other day. I thought it was going to be the same. It was not the same. It was actually quite difficult that day, for me especially, you know. And on the way down, like after I got in the hot spring, like I passed out, you know. Like I was just like, I don't know if it was the heat or the sulfur, you know. And I fell down. I got a little cut on my arm, you know, and elbow, you know. And it was like totally different than usual, you know. And I look back at that day was the best day, you know. That was one of the best days, that trip. You know, that climbing that mountain, that was the best idea. And that was the hardest day too. Yeah. But that was like totally awesome, I think. Because we actually did something, right? We actually got something done, right? So the only way you can get stuff done and do new things is if you're not in these, I don't know, lame, fake structures everywhere, you know.
People hold on to shit all the time. It's like, why are you holding on to it? It's gone. It's over. People just don't accept that.
You know, I would say that I can hear in your voice you're trying to change them. I think part of it is just you have to just get into this mindset of being at the zoo. You know, you're at the zoo. There's like an animal with a red ass. You know, there's another, you know, bird that constantly throws his nest out of the tree for whatever reason. You know, there's like people are just doing stuff, right? You're just looking at them, right? Yeah. You know, like, you know, it's like not beneficial to that animal to be doing that, but that's what he's doing, right? It's like you just have to kind of be more like
Stop monkeying around.
Yeah, you're just in the zoo. You're just like, oh, here's these animals doing these various things, you know, and think where you know, trying to change people is also too a way of not looking at yourself.
Oh, yeah, projection.
You get, because you're like, oh, I'm not doing that one thing anymore. I'm doing these other things, right? And so you say, well, yeah, okay, we've all got our things, and that guy's doing that, which is totally counterproductive in my mind, you know. But good on him, you know.
I'm doing this though.
And well, even if you don't, you just realize that he's doing that thing, and there's probably a lot of reasons. And then you think, well, the best way to change people, I mean, I think the only way to really change people is to live free. When you truly live free, that is a very powerful motivation for some people. You know, I'm kind of always surprised. Like, one thing I love about social media, I like social media in general. I think to me, I love it. But like one of the things I love, I can do is I post my pictures of my life, right? And like I ran into this high school friend in Bangkok recently. Well, there was 2 high school friends. Yeah, it was crazy. It was like 1 college friend and 2 high school friends I met in the 1 month I was in Bangkok. I mean, that's crazy, like so crazy. But anyway, so the one high school friend came, and we always got along super good. We were always just like super tight. And I was like super happy to see him. And the other guy I knew, and I remember I liked him, but I didn't really know much about him. I didn't follow or anything, you know. And so the one guy left, and then the other guy came. And the one guy, he was planning his life to be free. You know, he was like making good money doing what he's doing. He'd kind of reached the top of his profession. And he was like, yeah, I'm coming over here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be free. I'm getting the fuck out of here. I don't need do anything else. He was divorced. He had plenty of money. And he was working on getting a few things in line, and then he's going to be free. And the other guy, he came, and he kind of like, he burned himself out, like drugs and things like that. Like his body was not, you know, there's no way he's going to get. A lot of things were permanent with him. A lot of things he had done in his life had permanently made. But if funny enough, that guy, I was never trying to change people. So I was just kind of like just being myself there. And then finally he just like had to tell me, he's like, I've been trying to basically become free, and I'm really going, like, I didn't need to motivate the guy. The guy's eyes just lit up. He was like absolutely like gonna do it, you know, what he was doing. Like he had this plan, and I listened to him and I was like, wow. But the only way I can change that guy is by putting out my stuff to a lot of people, and then somebody will grab onto it. I mean, when you think about it, how many people on Ronin, man? There's like, I don't know, they technically have like 17,000 current subscribers, right? But there's a lot of guys who've been on and, you know, listen to stuff, like a lot. So let's just say 100,000 people. You know, I think it's more than that. But I've listened to Ronin Man, right? It's probably several hundred thousand. But let's just say 100,000 people. Out of all those people, there's two guys right here in the cabin, right? You know what I mean? And you guys both totally get it. You know what I mean? You guys are totally like, and there's a lot of things to get. And I'm not saying if you're not here, you're not. But there is a point where you just kind of like for example, coming up here. If you're not a country person, right? If you're not a person that's used to mosquitoes, you're not used to uncomfortable things, you're not used to being hungry, because you see it's hard to get food up here, right? It's a pain in the ass. Everything's a pain in the ass, right? In the countryside. Like everything's a pain in the ass.
If you can't walk.
If you get sick, it's a pain in the ass. If you can't walk, if you hurt your foot, it's a pain in the ass. If you forget your bathing suit down at the beach, then you're like got to swim in your regular.
You've got bad shoes.
Yeah, if you got bad shoes, you can't replace them. There's no like cool shoe store around.
No.
There's just like old lady Velcro shoe kind of place. You know, it like lame, nothing that you'd want to invest in, right? So when you get here, I've watched people. Okay, so for example, I remember when I started taking Adam to places like this. We were in China, and then lost the business. He was working for me, and so I said to Adam, "Let's get the fuck out of here. Let's go to Japan. My friend's going to give me a free place to stay. He goes, let's go to Japan because we weren't going to be sponsored anymore by the company for visa, and money was not going to come in. So there was no reason to stay there, right?" And he was like, "Yeah, let's go." So we came here and lived in Osaka, right, for like almost a year. And then in the middle, we lost that place. And then my friend with the cabin said, "Hey, why don't you come up to the cabin?" So we came up here. And in the meantime, we stopped. We had to camp and hitchhike and stuff, right? And so I remember when Adam, you know, he's full Birmingham guy, right? He had never been in the countryside, really. Like, he grew up in Birmingham. He knew every, like, thing about Birmingham and, like, how things operate there and everything, right? He didn't know. His parents were not campers and stuff, right? So we were sitting there, and then we hitchhiked one time, and then we got dropped off like 2 a.m. at this service area, but it was like almost like an island, and so there was nowhere to go, and we were so tired. And I said, I had a tent. I just said, "Adam, I'm just gonna sleep in the tent. There's no reason to not sleep tonight. Like, I just gotta sleep." So we snuck, you know, we found a bushy area off where the trucks were, and then I set up the tent. And I told him, I said, "Look, there's mosquitoes everywhere. So what you got to do is get all your stuff in your hands, okay, and wipe the back of your face and your hair. Like, wipe all the mosquitoes off every part of your body. And I'm going to unzip the thing in 1 second. You're going to dive in, and I'm going to zip it. And we're going to not get any mosquitoes in. Because they hang on your clothes and stuff, your hair. So you have to be like a spaz, knocking them all off, and then wait for them to get off.
Proper spasmoid.
And have all the crap, yeah.
A spasmoid.
Yeah, is that what he called him? Spasmoid.
Spaz attack. He's having a spaz attack. Watch out.
And then you got to have your shit in your bag, in your hands, because otherwise they might be on the bags, right? And then jump in. And then we got in there. And I remember he looked at me. I remember he was so disappointed. Like, because I was going to take him to Japan. We're going to do all this exciting stuff, right? And here we are camping in an illegal service area. You know, and we didn't even have sleeping bags, I don't think. But we had a tent, and it wasn't cold. And we didn't know how we're going to get home from there, you know, back on. And he just looked at me, and he's like, and I said, "Don't go outside. Like, piss in a jar. Don't open the door, because mosquitoes are going to come in. Like, get a jar." That's the other thing. I got jars to piss in, because So you don't have anything to piss in, you're going to have to open the door. And that's not smart. So they're going to ruin your sleep, right? So we in the morning, we opened up the tent, and it was like a beautiful day. And we were like on this hill, and then down there was water, because it was like an artificial island. And so I said, fuck it. So I just took off my clothes and just jumped in. No one was there. No one could see us. Like, there was like a freeway going above, far away. And it was very nice, actually. It was actually quite nice. You hear birds and everything. And I'm out there swimming for like an hour and a half. And he woke up, and I saw him when he sat there. And it was like he suddenly got it. Like, he understood what I was teaching him, in a way. You know, he saw the benefit. I could see that he was so happy, right? And I love that when people see, you got to get beat up in order to see. Like, you come up here to where we are now, Noji, you're going to have nights when you can't sleep. Walking around the cabin is a wooden cabin that's creaky, unstable and creaky. You'll wake up all the time. And mosquitoes will be all over you. Spiders are everywhere. There's like bugs flying around the house all the time.
No shortage of bugs.
Some of them quite large, you know.
The large one.
Yeah. Sometimes bees, you know. Like,
beetles.
Yeah, like hornets,
Huge.
ants everywhere, yeah. Ants on your feet. Yeah.
Yeah, no shortage of any type of bug.
No, there's wildlife.
Or, yeah.
Wildlife exists.
Yeah.
You can use the moths in your hand to attack other people.
Right, there's like moths. Right, there's just like constantly banging against the lights inside the house. And the windows from outside, right.
There's cracks in the windows. There's 50 holes in the house.
Right.
And
they come into those holes.
it's Bodo situation.
They're not stupid, right? They know, yeah. So they come inside. And you really can't stop them, you know. And I've noticed that people that are not outdoor people, like if they come for one night or 2 nights, they think, I can see the mind process, because they'll tell me, I know you like that, but I'm a city person, right? I can't do, you know. And they go, and then for all intents and purposes, they're done with experimenting with that. Okay, but there's magic happens when someone's forced to be up here longer, or is a little long, because there's a point where you realize, and this is what I think you realize, is you realize that just let the bugs bite you, let them crawl all over the place, let them get in your sleeping bag, let the bears, there's bears here, right? Let the bears cruise around, you know. Let everything, let the place be creaky, and there's a leak in the roof outside of the balcony, you know, and just let everything be as it is, and everything is fine. Like, there's a point where they bite you, and you don't itch it. You just don't care. You're just like, and there's like I think it's a beautiful moment, because you just stop being so nervous. There's a letting go. And you just say, I think too, you can't be fake up here. Whoever you are is going to come out. And that's why people are terrified of these kind of places, is your real personality. Because you'll get frustrated, right, with stuff, right? Stuff's going to happen. You know, we were walking in the rain, the wind, it was freezing, it was slippery, it was slimy. And we climbed a mountain that was serious, you know, and like people got lost, people took off, and like people didn't have their phones, like, yeah, we did. So there's no way to reach them, you know. You had to like accept that maybe your friend's like dying out there or something, but there's nothing you can do, right? Like, literally, you can't do shit. Right? They don't have their phone, and you don't know which trail they took and which way they're going, and so you just realize you just kind of, and then I passed out and fell down, and like, you know, bang my elbow in my hand, and I still have little cuts on the end of my fingers, you know, and then I got up and I went back into the hot spring, right? Because you just kind of realize that you're more robust than you thought, and you realize that it all doesn't matter, it's all fine, and that once you let nature, like, nature's gonna win. That's what I think. Nature will always win. You know, and so when you realize that, I think part of the reason why people don't like nature is they feel insignificant, because it's just relentless, right? It's going to keep coming. Where nature is... No
matter how many mosquitoes you kill,
yeah,
there's always another mosquito.
There's always another.
Right after.
Oh, yeah.
That one.
There's probably like 40 hiding. Just they hear the slapping, they hide. You know?
Truman Show.
Yeah, you're right. Oh yeah, okay. So, and then even you look at Japan. Japan is the king of trying to manipulate nature. They love. That's why bonsai trees and everything. They didn't come from anywhere else. Japan is the most hardworking, disciplined country that ever existed. Like there's no country like Japan. It's such a unique place. It really is. The people are amazing. But what beat Japan eventually was nature, because eventually Tokyo became so fun and Tokyo became such a hub and people stopped having kids because it was more fun not to have kids than to have kids. And so what's happening now is depopulation. So all these cities that they carved out with hard work,
Carved out of the mountain.
literally thousands of years, is all falling apart now. Things the Japanese have done for thousands of years. And nobody ever thought, they thought Japan would always beat nature. But now nature, which is babies, is beating nature. Right? Their not adherence to the rules of nature has caused them to be beat by nature. Because the vines are taking cities. Whole cities are disappearing. Hotels are crumbling. Highways are being closed. Schools are being closed. By the way, I think we should buy a school for the GHQ. You know, I've seen schools very cheap in Japan. So I've been thinking about this as kind of a headquarters. I think it's a great idea. If anybody's interested, seriously interested in investing and being part of it, you can contact me. But so nature is beating nature, right? Like basically nature won on every grounds in Japan. All that work, all those slaves, because they were slaves, Japanese. They worked so hard. It's crazy how hard they work here. I mean, really. I'm serious. Like if you know, even now, you don't even see the real work. No, back in the 80s. Man, those guys running restaurants back then, dude, the care and the love they put in making the food for me. I had no understanding of it. I was so young. Like I just ate, I ate works of art every day back then. It was crazy. It was crazy. Nobody will ever work that hard again. I'm serious. People just, it doesn't make logical sense to work that hard. There's no reason, but they did it, and it was with purpose to make better things, you know. And there was a reason in the sense that they made beautiful things. You couldn't charge what they were worth, but they made, if you care about beautiful things, the Japanese, they made beautiful things. Even when there was no payback, nothing. That's the other countries are always thinking about, how much do I get for this? The Japanese just purely made it because it should be that way.
Aesthetic philosophy, idea.
Yeah, they just believed in it. Like it just needs to be this way. Like there's tons of dolls in Japan where, you know, they get broken or they fall apart. And then they realize there was a whole nother doll inside that was designed to never be seen, that took more work than the outside one. Like that was the thinking. Like it was just about making things perfect, making things the best they could be. Like it was a very unique culture, really. But even that incredible exertion of energy is now being beaten by trees and vines. You know, trees and fucking vines. You would never think trees and vines are powerful, but they just take over.
It's like gravity.
And then, yeah, gravity, right? Gravity is such a simple thing, but it keeps the earth round. It makes us heavy. It keeps us, it stops us from, you know, it's crazy what gravity does. It's insane. Like when you start thinking about gravity. I love gravity because it's the immutable law, right? And nobody can ever really measure it. Like gravity is just a thing. You know, we know it's there. Gravity just pulls you down in bigger planets. Like if we moved to a planet twice as big, we'd be twice as heavy or whatever. We'd be a lot heavier, right? And there's that we go to the moon, we'd be light, right? Because there's no gravity almost. Very little, right? It's crazy. So I think coming up here, I think allows you, it gives you, I think, coming up here longer, not just one day, like letting the pain seep in, letting the bugs, like realizing that you're going to run out of bug spray. you're going to run out of energy to slap bugs. You just have to give up at some point, basically. Not totally. I'm not saying you give up on life. I'm just saying you realize that this whole game you've been playing is just this big, petty, stupid thing. And all you need to do is relax and just enjoy it. It's great as it is. Like up here, it's just wonderful, you know. And you don't have to do anything to make it wonderful. You just wake up every day, and then, you know, some days the sky is just going to be painted red, right? And just insanely gorgeous, right? You know, and the water would just be sheet glass sometimes, and so pretty, right? Combined with the things Japanese make, like the colorful boats and, you know, stuff like that, right? And the things they add to it, right? The torii gates, you know, they got on the island out there, right? We haven't swam out there yet, unfortunately. But I think that this is very, very pertinent, because giving up on being fake and letting life come to you is really the goal. And I think that's how you get out of a lot of traps. It's not like exertion of will. It's just you accept what you've become. You just look at yourself and just laugh. Like, what I was so great, and now I've become this. Like, how pathetic, you know. This is what I do every day. My wife orders me around. I'm a nervous wreck. And I'm passive aggressive, angry at everybody. I drive people away because I accept things I shouldn't, and I'm unhappy. And I'm doing it. It's not women's fault. I am doing this. I'm accepting this life. Whatever it is that you're accepting, you know. Because we're all accepting stuff, right? This is for everybody. We're all accepting stuff. Like, we're all being fake on certain things, you know. And then you just realize, like, anything that's real is real. Whatever insecurity you have, people will eventually figure it out. Whatever health problem you're covering up, you know, you're trying to act young or something, or you're trying to act athletic, or you're trying to act like a motorcycle rider, and actually you're not, because you're using it as an image, you know. You're just, whatever it is, fake you're doing. You know, I got a friend who bought a bunch of Harley bikes, and I know he's like insecure, and I know that it's all fake. And if I ever meet him, like in person, we talk on the phone, but I'm going to tell him. He's a good guy. I can see what he's doing. It's so fake. You know, we used to race street bikes, you know. Like, he's not a Harley, this guy. It's all fake. It's all marketing. It's all stupid. We can all fall into it. So I think in life, it's, if you want to really be free, like that friend of mine from high school, you just have to let the truth sink in. That's all you need. It's the only motivation. That's it. You have to slow down, let go, let the bugs bite you, and just accept where you are. And you think, oh no, I need to change. No, you don't. You need to accept what you become, where you are, who you are. When you accept that, everything will change. Because you'll be like, I don't even want to say what happened, because the key is accept. You finally accept, here's where I am. Here's what I become. You know, all this shit is fake. I'm trying to fake people out with this and that. And some people believe it. Some people know me better, whatever, you know. And you start to say, okay, so now what am I going to do? It's like the Japanese spent 2,000 years trying to cover up something, right? You know, and then, but eventually it came and beat them, right? And it's beating them more every day. You know, it's really getting really obvious now that it was all in vain. It was a 2,000-year project, which was beautiful. And it was kind of like when the Spanish, they always try to make a human pyramid to the sky. There's something about that that's beautiful. Them knowing that every time they're going to fall, they just try to build it again. So I'm not saying that the striving for this impossible is bad. But you just have to know that that's what you're doing.
Awareness.
You got to be aware, right? That you're making a beautiful thing. Sometimes I'll make a video that I know is never going to make me any money. It could be put into a book. It might be even a classic if I have a really good idea comes. but I'm just putting it out on Ronin anyway. He said, just putting it out there. Because at least it got out there. And then somebody who really cares can go through the 600 videos and find it, right? You know what I mean? But at least I got it out there.
And steal your idea.
They could steal it, yeah.
And make it.
For sure. They could say they thought of it and everything, yeah. And you know, they could even say I copied them. Yeah. It's fine. Yeah. Because in the end, like, the truth always comes out, right? So I think that's the truth in your life, the truth in who you're trying to be. And that's one of the reasons why I've started to detest the opening of summits. Because when a guy comes to a summit for the first time, we don't know him, and he's telling his story from his perspective. But often he's lying to himself on so many points and covering up a lot of insecurities or mistakes he made, or even outright falsifying parts of it, right? And then, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that's a stage in enlightenment, is when you're lying to yourself, right? And then you lie to other people. I think that's a step forward. Because when you lie to yourself and then no one else hears it, there's no chance of any change happening. But when you lie to other people, then they might say, hey, wait, you said that, but now you're doing this. And then a guy who's on the path, you know, one of the Ronin guys who's into it, will say, damn, you're right. I didn't realize that. Holy shit. And then they think about it for a little bit, and they're like, no, it's worse than what you're saying. I've been doing this for years. I've been like acting this way and saying this, but actually, it actually happened this way. Usually it takes a few summits for a guy. Just to, you know what I mean? And hanging out afterwards. So the guy finally starts to, you know, realize. And then that's when like true stories come out. You know, true struggles and things, right? So I guess it is good. The opening meeting, everybody does their best to share as honestly as they can at the time, right? And then they get caught on a few things, or they catch themselves by listening to the video. Again, you know, they realize, I was lying there, you know. And that's what I love about videos for myself, is I can see myself through what I say. So years later, I realize what I couldn't see correctly, what I was afraid of, what I was insecure about. I can see myself through making, I think of it as art, by making and putting it out there. That's why you should share like as honestly as you can, because that leaves a possibility that, you know, true growth will happen, right?
Future avenue.
Yeah, there's a possibility something will change. But if you try to keep it in your mind, I just don't find that works. I mean, if that worked, you wouldn't even come to a summit.
Well, it's like
you just fix it.
It's
right.
like a diary, you know. You make an entry, but if it's on a video, it's like the same. It's almost the same concept, but it's more real. Like,
but it's a million times better because other people see it.
Right.
You know, hear it.
There's accountability.
Well, just the fact that you know they heard it
Right.
makes you more serious about it. You can write any bullshit to yourself, but when you tell other people, then you have to make a conscious decision to mislead them. Because they'll say something like, "Oh, he's the he's the jiu-jitsu master," and then the guy might finally say, "Actually, that was just the nervousness that Ronin was talking about. I was never good at it. I never got this belt. I never reached any kind of. I just talked about that because I was so insecure around you guys that I felt like I had to be good at something." Or good at fighting, you know, or whatever, in order to be accepted or whatever. And actually, you know, I don't like it, or I don't do it, or it wasn't really me. And then you find your real self. I know for myself, I know one thing that I got from making these videos, like Ronin videos, is that before I started making them, I thought of myself as like, which is funny now, but is like this cold, calculating businessman. I thought that was the cool way to be. Like in the 80s, you know?
James Bond.
It was like, yeah, it was like, it was more like, the movies from back then, like the Wall Street.
Patrick Bateman.
No, it was before that. It was before that. It was like what was the movie? It was Michael Douglas in one of the movies in the 80s. He was like a stockbroker or something. It was like, like I because when I was younger, I like, not that I couldn't do that. It's just it's not me, And I realized that through Ronin, I realized,
Small part though.
it's not what I want to do, and it's not me, Even though I could do it, that doesn't mean it's me, right? It's not me. I realized through Ronin, I realized that, like, I'm an artist. My mom's an artist, right? But I didn't know that before. Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that before. It just didn't fit into the way I thought about myself. I don't know what I thought of an artist, but I guess I thought artists didn't really do anything, Maybe I thought artists just sold overpriced things, or they copied other people, or it was like most art sucks, right? So, like if you look on people's walls, right, there's no creativity. There's nothing there. Nothing has been created, right? But an artist makes new things. Yeah, it puts together things that hadn't been put together. So it could be physical, right? It could be some kind of wood or something, right? It could be anything. It could be art. Could be the way you joke, right? Your demeanor, right? Like that's art. That's definitely art. Because every time you respond to somebody else to say something, no one's ever responded to that person. And when you say something, your tone of voice, choice of words, pausing, it's like a stand-up comedy, right? It's like, and that's art. It's art that just is constantly playing, right? It's constantly going, right? It's not recorded. It's not like permanent.
It's a moment in time.
It's a moment in time. Yeah, it's a moment in time. And I guess that's kind of like what the Japanese were doing.
Yeah, the beauty, right? The pursuit of beauty.
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck, hey.
It's all gonna go anyways, right? It's gonna go. It's just that one moment in time where it feels special. You just grab onto it and you let it go. Just a little bit.
Yeah, it's like, it's so people specific too, right? Because like I have a different sense of humor depending on who I'm with. Because it depends on our experiences, right? Where have we gone? What have we done? And so I value people that are like that, because they are like a wormhole into a certain way of being, right? Into that moment, that experience, like whatever the difficult thing was or whatever it was, right? People that I was with in China was very difficult, And so those friendships, like we don't even ever have to talk about it, but we went through some serious hardship. Like China was really rough, Like it was rough back then. Like it was tough. Like we were just all kinds of shit happening, And just funny things. I just remember one night I was freezing and I was just, we had this like ice cold, like things in communism just made no sense. So just the craziest shit would happen. But this wasn't crazy, but it was just like funny, like one of these things that I think when the guy that was with me, it's like we can just laugh our asses off. Like it was so cold in this town we were in. It was so fucking cold that we were thinking like, I don't know, like if we're gonna make it, like it's like we get so cold, right? And the blankets sucked, and we didn't know where else to go. we probably had a place to go, but at the time, you spent money on this place, right? So anyway, so then I was at the restaurant and they had coal. They used to burn coal for everything. Like, to me, China is not China without the smell of coal. Like, when I go to modern China, it's not even China anymore to me. Because the real China was like coal everywhere. In communist China, when I went there, it was just coal. The smell of coal was everywhere. No matter where you couldn't get it out of you. It wasn't that it was bad. It was just like the smell of coal was everywhere. In every house, in every restaurant, every place. Coal was everywhere. In the winter, anytime it was cold. And in the summer too, actually, because they cook with it, right? And the coal is funny because it's like rocks that burn, It's not wood, It's the weirdest thing. There's so much rocks in there and catch on fire, It's crazy, They burn, They burn for a long time too, yeah. They don't get smaller or anything, They just sit there, burning. And so we went to this a restaurant to eat that we knew was going to be warm, hot pot place. And they had coal burning in these buckets under the table, right? So they had a bucket of coal burning by your feet to keep yourself warm, right? Because they had no heater. Because there was no heaters. I mean, don't even dream of an air conditioner or anything like that. Like, this didn't exist yet. And so they had coal. And so so then I told the guy who owned the place, I said, look, I want to buy some of these buckets of coal, And so he's like, you mean the whole thing? I'm like, yeah, I just want to get the bucket and the coal inside there on fire and just buy those, yeah. And he's like, what do you, and I'm like, he's like, okay. So he gave me a price, I paid him. And then and so he put the buckets in my basket in my bicycle, right? So, I'm riding a Chinese bicycle, those big, heavy, old school bicycles, right? And I'm driving down the street. The problem is with coal burns hotter depending on wind. Yeah. So as you're riding the bike, the wind's hitting the coal. And so my face is just getting burned, right? And my hands are on fire, right? So I'm trying to use just my palms, like the back of my palms, and then my face down below, and the coal's burning my face, right? I'm trying not to crash, because if I crash in the snow, I'm going to lose the coals, right? Plus I'm going to eat shit, right? So I'm trying not to crash, right? And so anyway, somehow I got back to the hotel, or to our room, right? So we brought in all this coal and put it in the middle of the room, and then we went to sleep, But it turns out it was all for naught, because the room was so fucking cold that the coal really didn't make much difference, But we could have died from carbon monoxide poisoning, which, at the time, I didn't even think about that kind of thing. I was like, so we went to sleep with all this burning coal in the small room, right? And then luckily we woke up in the morning, right? But we could have easily died, right? All of us,
If you want, did you sleep on the floor or the bed frame?
The bed. Oh. Yeah, we were on the bed, yeah.
Not even on the floor?
No, we were on the bed, yeah. And the coal was burning in the room. Big buckets of coal burning in our room. Yeah. And we... So it was all for naught too, because it was still the same freezing ass coal. And we woke up, it was just bitter, and the coal was all out, And then someone said, I told somebody, because it was a little warmer than it would have been, right? And I told somebody my brilliant idea, and they said, well, that's fucking dangerous, And I was like, what's dangerous, Because I grew up in California, I had desert in California, it's warm, right? And he's like, well, fucking coal, carbon monoxide, You never heard of that? I said, I heard of that, but never really dealt with it. We almost did last night, right? And it was these moments, they're so crazy. The things that happened to us in China were so crazy that they were so hilarious and crazy and all the time that the people that I went through those experiences with were very valuable, and they're just sources of humor, because we don't really need to say shit, because we remember just endless madness, just, you didn't have to read books for madness. It was all the time, right? And it was, something crazy was always happening, always happening, And so I appreciate, I kind of realized that the only way to have adventure, one of the guys didn't come to the summit because he realized it was hot in summer here, right? And so he said, I'm not going to be comfortable, so he decided not to come. And that was an honest opinion. There was one guy who came in, a guy from London. He wore like almost a suit in summer, and he was just, like sweating his ass off. He had like white pants, like he was like going out at night in London or something. And he was sweating. He was like, I didn't know we were going to walk so much. And then one of the other guy goes, because it was one of the early summits, right? He goes, one of the other guy goes, did you ever watch his videos? He's always walking. And then he kind of accepted. He was a cool guy actually, but he totally like misjudged what he should wear and what it was going to be like. Because we were walking a lot that first summit. It was August, right? Peak of heat in Tokyo.
Oh.
It was in Tokyo, yeah.
Didn't know about
He didn't know that the 1,000,000 degrees, right?
the gazillion. It's like
Yeah, gazillion, yeah.
it's the concrete makes it work.
Yeah, and I think, concrete jungle, right? And he had like black shoes and, he might have had a black jacket or something, yeah.
A jacket.
I think so. I think he had a light jacket or something, yeah. He was carrying it, but he had a black jacket. Yeah,
course he was
he
carrying
was sweating his fucking ass off, right? But like, it's like me with the coal, right? We all we don't realize what we don't know until you kind of get it, But I think part of like humor, enlightenment, realizing the reality of life comes from getting out there and doing things that you make yourself fool of yourself. And then you realize, I couldn't see that. That was invisible to me. And, for whatever reason, you don't have to be hard on yourself because everybody has these. You're like, that was a blind spot, And I think a lot of life is just having less blind spots. The less you can have, the better. Yeah, that's what I'll end on. I think that's the kind of, you can never totally get rid of all your blind spots, but I think you get really good at seeing blind spots. And even though you don't want to change them, you might just know
Awareness.
Yeah, you just realize that, okay,
This is a weakness.
I got this weakness, Yeah. Or like I kind of knowingly have this blind spot, just because it's more comfortable that way. It's easier,
It's not gonna shock you.
Right.
It's like, oh, that's
Right. Like a lot of people are convinced their dogs love them, right? Like the dogs love them. And I think dogs have emotions and everything, but I mean, the dog doesn't have any choice, right? And the dog is like hungry and shit. You're giving him food and water and stuff. Like, I mean, you can have this blind spot where they're like just as smart as you and just, they make decisions. They're as free as you and they chose you or something. I don't know. Maybe it's like arranged marriage and they end up loving you more than if they had choice. But
peanut butter.
Stockholm syndrome.
you could have different levels of physical intimacy with them.
Different levels.
Like that girl, the Yoshinoya girl. Yeah, peanut butter. But
Deep spread.
is that crunchy or is that creamy?
Smooth.
Creamy. Oh, smooth. Creamy. Yeah, creamy.
Creamy smooth.
Yeah, dogs like that. Yeah, they'll lick that stuff right off anything. All right, I think we gotta make a video and swim. All right.